Since seeing the Sonic Frontiers Cyberspace trailer in June this year, I've had a theory cooking in my head about Sage, the purported villain of Sonic Frontiers, not actually being the villain. I've personally thought for a while that it's actually Infinite from Sonic Forces. Yes, Mr. I'm not weak, Shadow kicked me in the face. I scrapped my original script because I thought, well, what's the point in making it? But then something came out on Twitter the other day and I was like, do you know what? Maybe there was a little bit more to it than I thought, so why not make the video? That's what this is. So I'm going to present to you my reasons why I think that Infinite is maybe the boss of Sonic Frontiers. Hey, so since recording this video, two things became apparent to me. Number one, in an interview back in July or August, Iizuka-san actually stated that Infinite and Sage had no connection. I had completely forgotten about that, so that does dampen a lot of the theory. But also number two, the Sonic Frontiers Convergence Prologue Part 2 came out, and it's actually stated that not only is Eggman responsible for creating the AI, but the Starfall Islands are actually a real location, which really messes up most of the theory. So there's actually just such a slim chance that any of this theory comes true, but I put a fair amount of work into it. It's always fun to see what would happen, and I'm going to treat this like a what if. What if these things came together and Infinite was actually the villain? These are the telltale signs, these are the hints at it. Okay, cool, so let's treat it like that. I do hope you enjoy the rest of this video, and hit subscribe if you do enjoy it. Now, let's go! Firstly, the game's setting. Sonic Frontiers takes place on the Starfall Islands, which have entrances to cyberspace dotted around. There is a digital Unreal feel to the entire thing, especially in the context of what normally constitutes a Sonic level. It has a more realistic feel, that much is very obvious from the trailers and gameplay previews. It feels like these places are detached from normal reality in a big way. For example, Eggman's facilities are there, but they've become overgrown and covered, and Sonic can just transport anywhere he wants with these separate gates. During the events of Forces, Infinite was actually able to force other people to travel into other areas. For example, Sonic and the Avatar ended up going into null space. That was a separate reality, and therefore this could be a similar situation. The Starfall Islands could be an altered reality that Infinite has trapped Sonic and friends in, giving him control over the area and making Sonic see and hear things. We even have this strange detached voice throughout the Starfall Islands, and that again gives an unnatural, unreal feeling to the whole setting. I'll come back to that voice a little bit later though. We don't exactly know if Infinite died at the end of Forces, but look, if Palpatine can return in Star Wars, then Infinite can definitely come back, get the Phantom Ruby back somehow, and be focused on taking Sonic down in a more tactical, methodical way thanks to his previous failure. And regarding the Phantom Ruby, there were copies of it, so perhaps they could do the same thing similar to the way the Fake Emerald reacted in Sonic Adventure 2. My next point is based around the enemies of Sonic Frontiers. Look at the way they appear. See that reddish glow with the little blocks springing up and around the enemy as it's forming in the world? I think it's pretty reminiscent of the blocks that Infinite uses in Forces for his illusions, and that also occurs again in the story clips in the trailers. That reddish blocky aura emanates from our floaty ghosty, kinda like Infinite. Even the base colour scheme is very similar. If they wanted to separate it better, I think they would have used different colour motifs, but it is pretty similar to Infinite's colour palette. Now here's where I interject my original script, because this is where that thing that I saw on Twitter comes into play. So a magazine called Play Magazine did a little article on Sonic Frontiers, and there was a little blurb that had some new points about the game, or things to take note of. One of them was Chemical Plant, which was really cool, but number 4 was about the colour scheme of Sage being similar to previous antagonists, and that was worth taking note of. As I said in the YouTube short that I made for fun, red, black and white has been used on a couple of villains, but the one that really suits here is Infinite, especially when you couple that with Iizuka-san's recent interview where he said that there's going to be a couple of gasp out loud moments for Sonic fans and people who've played previous games. I think they're definitely angling towards a past villain returning, and Infinite fits the bill. Now you can see why I've revived this theory. Anyway, back to the original script. I think if Infinite managed to trap Sonic in a whole elusive world, it would explain why the enemy forms the way that they do, as well as how Sonic can digitally deconstruct as well, which kinda uses the blocky motifs and red coloration. Now I want to hone in on one particular enemy here, that's the Squid Guardian, and this bit is kind of speculative. The gameplay preview of Sonic Frontiers from Sonic Central was all but over in about 10 seconds, but we saw this flying squiddy boy. Remember when Infinite started the illusions in Metropolis City of Forces? We got those big Dragoon style Infinites. There's a fair similarity here. It's not massively similar, like it's not solid evidence or anything, I think it's very circumstantial, but I mean, he could use his likeness in other enemies, it could be a thing. He's got an ego, so could work. And then again from Sonic Central, the prologue animation. Knuckles is guarding the Master Emerald like the good boy that he is, and we see some red glowing thunder in the background. If you look at the thunder, it's got the blocky shape, and the red glow is similar to that of Infinite's illusions again. I think this could again be pretty interesting because I might be reading too much into that, but the sort of blocky formation and the colour, what if he's already trapped Knuckles? What if he's made a reality that looks the same as the Angel Island where Knuckles is guarding the Master Emerald? Only time will tell with that prologue, but we should be seeing that any day from now when this video is released. So I said I would come back to the voice. Sage is definitely the face of the villain here, so if it's really Infinite, why would he decide to change his voice? Perhaps Infinite is just a really big fan of Evangelion and wanted to sound like Rei Ayanami. There could be any number of reasons for this, but think about it logically. If you were tricking someone into believing that they were in a world when they're really in an illusion, would you use your voice that they would possibly recognise after they handed your ass to you in an earlier fight? Or would you disguise your voice? Hiding and throwing people off your trail would be part and parcel of his skill set, so if he's got the ability to control the world as it is, why would he use his real voice? Why wouldn't he try and disguise himself as much as possible? It's definitely not a stretch to believe that he would plot and use the Phantom Ruby again in a more concentrated, methodical way, and part of that would mean hiding his appearance and voice. So those are really the main points as to why I think we've already been teased for Infinite being the bad guy in Sonic Frontiers. Now, is the reuse of a critically panned game's focal character a bad sign for Frontiers? God no. We love Silver, and we all remember where he came from. I think there's a lot of similarity between Sage and Infinite. It's just a lot of similar motifs in the deconstruction and reconstruction of the digital world. I can't really say that without thinking of Digimon. It would also definitely explain how Sonic and his friends suddenly appear in this new area that they've never seen before. And I think it could reasonably explain how Sonic and his friends were manipulated and tricked with altered realities into coming into this trap. It could reasonably explain how Sonic and his friends have been transported into a world and have been trapped there. But there is equally a possibility that it's not actually Infinite, it could just be a return of the Phantom Ruby. We know there was a real one and a fake one, as I mentioned earlier, so perhaps there were other recreations out there too. Either way, I think it would be really cool to see Infinite get a redo. I think he had so much potential as a character and as a pure threatening villain, and that he deserves a chance to use his powers in a more substantial and threatening manner. Any thoughts on this? I mean, most likely this is nothing, but it's so fun to speculate about Sonic stuff. I just really enjoy it, and especially we're so close to release now. I just wanted to make a record of this and thought it was fun to discuss. I really can't believe how close we are to Sonic Frontiers, and as some of you know, or if you're new, you may not know, I actually have already tried the game out. It was fantastic. I had a really good time. If you check this video out next, make sure you subscribe first, of course, but then check this one out for all the information you need on how it handles and whether it's going to be worth your time.